Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council and declare the meeting open. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with the Council's governance rules. It's important that members of the public present in the gallery respect the setting and do not disrupt the meeting, particularly during debate and discussion by councillors. We will commence this meeting with the following reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you, everyone. The Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. It's a full house tonight. We have no apologies. We'll go to the adoption and confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder for the following? That Council confirms the minutes of the following meetings. 1, the Council meeting on the 19th of May 2025 and 2, the Town Planning Committee meeting on the 2nd of June 2025. Do I have a mover? Councillor Pomeroy. Seconder? Councillor Thompson. Thank you. We'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Agenda item number 5, declarations of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? I see none. We'll note that in the minutes. Thank you. Item 6, community questions. All right, let's get started on that. So in order of submissions, the first set of questions is from Marcus Wade. Is Marcus in the gallery tonight? Thank you, Marcus. We see that. I'll refer your question to Debbie Tyson.
Hello, Mark. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Wade, and thank you for your questions. I'm going to answer your first question in relation to the urban growth boundary in relation to the area vicinity of Pecky Road and the power lines, and then James Kelly is going to answer the rest of your questions.
Sorry, Marcus. Sorry, there's no opportunity for back and forth. I'm sorry. So it's Debbie Tyson. Debbie, can you just state your name and role, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Debbie Tyson, I'm the General Manager of Community and Planning Services. And I'm going to answer your questions in relation to the urban growth boundary. So the urban growth boundary around metropolitan Melbourne is set by the state government. The site impacting you refer to is in the Green Wedge 1 zone and outside of the metropolitan urban growth boundary. In August 2024, the state government affirmed its position that there will be no change to the urban growth boundary. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to James, Acting General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, to answer the rest of your questions.
Thank you, Debbie. James Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. In response to your question, I respond in the following way. At this time, the section of Peck Road from Fellis Road to the power and infrastructure that runs along, it will be closed. Council is not aware of when this will be developed. It will depend on when the owner seeks to progress this development. In response to your question 3, Dwellis Road from Peck Road to Brown Road has previously been identified by Council as a priority for sealing. However, funding is not yet available to be allocated to this particular project. In relation to question 4, the response would be, when the Dwellis Road Princess Highway intersection is fully constructed, the Kenneth Road Dwellis Road connection will be opened, which is in accordance with the precinct structure plan. Question 5, the response would be, my apologies. Vic Roads is a state government agency, and any inquiries regarding the location of their offices or the quality of the services delivery are best directed to the relevant state government department.
Thank you, James. And a written response will also be provided to you. The next question is from Ed Chia. Is Ed in the gallery? No, I see that Ed is not. So a written response will be provided to Ed. Our next questions are from Ash Chota. Is Ash in the gallery? No, Ash. All right. And our final question is from Tanya Deneen. Is Tanya in the gallery? Hi, Tanya. Thank you. I'm going to refer your question to Debbie Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for your question, Tanya, which reads, can you please provide us the date when both feasibility studies for the Pakenham Golf Course will be completed? 1, the recreation land study. 2, the golf viability study. As we, the community, would like to ensure we can contribute to the decision-making process, we'd also like to thank the Council for their ongoing maintenance of the golf course. In response to your question, community members will have an opportunity to provide feedback prior to any decisions being made on the future of the site. The feasibility study is expected to be completed within the next 3 months. Following this, a report will be presented to Council for their consideration, and it will help to inform the community engagement activities that will follow. Council has confirmed its commitment to keep the community informed with any updates regarding the golf course site as more information comes at hand. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everyone. Let's go into ordinary business, and we'll start with agenda item 7.1.1. Planning Scheme Amendment C282, Officer Kiln, James Hicks Pottery. The officer's recommendation here is that Council 1 requests authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit proposed Planning Scheme Amendment C282 card under Section 8A of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. 2, considers planning permit application T230528 concurrently with proposed Planning Scheme Amendment C282 card pursuant to Section 96A and 96B of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Attachment 7. 3, exhibits proposed Planning Scheme Amendment C282 card concurrently with Planning Permit T230528 in accordance with Section 17, 18 and 19 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, if authorisation to prepare the amendment is received from the Minister for Planning. And finally, 4, authorises the Manager of Planning and Design to make any minor adjustments required to the proposed amendment C282 card documentation to meet the intent of the resolution. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Sam Potter.
I'd like to move the officer's motion as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Brett Owen. Councillor Potter to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. I am in full support of the officer's recommendation. I am excited about what a development like this will do for Officer Ward, and outlined clearly by the officer's report, it shares that the proposed Planning Scheme Amendment C282 card and concurrent planning permit T230528 aims to improve and adapt the Officer Kiln site by allowing an office underground car park alongside a restaurant and cafe. This amendment to the Heritage Overlay H0104 is designed to support the conservation of the site's heritage structure while promoting a mixed-use development that aligns with community needs via seeking authorisation from the Minister of Planning, and by placing both the proposed Planning Scheme Amendment and planning permit on public exhibition. Council is committed to ensuring a transparent process that considers community input. Overall, this initiative is anticipated to yield a positive environmental, social and economic outcome, enhancing the viability and heritage value of the site. I understand that this has been a long time in coming, and it is of a considerable interest to the community. Therefore, it's important to note that the permit history and previous tribunal findings have been considered in the current proposal. And this report outlines that the landowner has worked closely with Council's heritage expert to ensure all heritage considerations, policies and objectives have been considered as part of the design process. The new and proposed planning permit will require to construct a protective structure over the kiln to shield it from weather damage and ensure its ongoing maintenance, which will ensure the history of Officer will be preserved in this instance for future Officer residents. This would be a wonderful way to honour what is already a landmark to welcome people to Officer and give our growing community a big sense of pride of place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Potter. The site has historically been used for the manufacture of terracotta building materials as part of the James Hicks pipe and brickworks. The brick kiln and chimney structures on the eastern portion of the land and the disused clay pit on the adjoining land to the west are associated with its former use. So there is a long history regarding this land parcel, this kiln site. Obviously, in the past, there was an application for subdivision. Back in 2020, Council determined to refuse that permit because of our concerns about the impact such a subdivision would have on the eventual protection of the heritage overlay. So this obviously went to VCAT, and obviously VCAT upheld Council's position to refuse the subdivision. Now we've got a new owner, and I really congratulate the new owner who wants to celebrate the history of this site through this amendment and through the permit. What is proposed is the application permit seeks approval for the use of the land for an office and food and beverage premises, including to sell or consume liquor, development of the land for an office building, cafe, restaurant, wine bar, building and works associated with the above uses, the construction display of signage, and the slight reduction of car parks. It's very slight, considering an office building will be vacant or not in operation during the main key times of this restaurant. So I do not have any concerns about car parking. So it's a really positive outcome. In the last 2 days, we've received correspondence from the President of the Officer and District Association, Tam Radford, former councillor, who writes to all councillors saying the association is very supportive of this report and this amendment and future permit. I also, councillors received a letter of support for this amendment by Annette Aldersey, who's in the gallery as well with Tam Radford, also supportive of this amendment. So because it respects, protects the historic elements of this site, and that's a really good outcome. It's taken a while to get to this point, but it's a really good outcome. And I thank the officers also for working with the applicant for this very positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Casey Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to my other councillors who have spoken so far and so well on this item. I too will be in support of this. As that's been mentioned already previously, the amendment is required to allow for the proposed mixed-use development, which is included of an office. And the main reason for the office is to aid in the conservation of the heritage elements, which have already been discussed on the site, and to demonstrate how the development will result in a favourable planning outcome, which will also have beneficial environmental, social and economic consequences on the area. And it'll be just good to see this site activated again. I do think it is worth mentioning, though, the proponent has agreed to apply for a build-over easement permit and to enter into a Section 173 agreement, which just means that if required, to ensure that the landowner is responsible for any costs associated with the removal and reinstallation of glass structure over the kiln, which encroaches into council's drainage easement. So it just goes to show there's been really good due diligence and a thorough process followed, and that all things have been considered, as it's quite a big deal to be going against policy and procedure. So if we're going to be supportive of this, we need to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for withdrawing this item, Councillor Potter. This, I know, with Councillor Owen, has been one of the very longest issues that we've had running on council. And we don't have a whole lot of history in Australia, and in Cardinia Shire we don't have a lot. So to preserve things is really, really important. And I must say it's a long time coming, having a really good application put forward on this issue. I must say the building has stood the test of time. A lot of us feared as we drove down the highway and watched it sitting there for so many years that it would fall down. And when it falls down, you've just lost it. It doesn't need to be rebuilt. I think this is a really, really good application. I hope it gets approved on council, and I hope it's successfully built and we will have something preserved within Cardinia Shire on the highway that people can be very proud of. And for all those out there who stood up over the time who tried to have this preserved and something done, congratulations. Hopefully you'll have achieved it by the time it's successfully built. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'll just jump in here. I'll be voting in support of this motion tonight. I think it's just a really good story. I mean, it has the potential to be part of our evolving local job story. It prevents demolition by neglect, protects some really important local history. So there's some really good points there already, as you can see, why we should support it. I think it's just pertinent for me to outline, though, that there is a process to go through from here. Of course, this asks the Minister for Planning for authority and then puts it on exhibition for the community. So this will come back to council to be voted on again. So this is the first step in a series of many first steps, I think, but there's certainly a good story here, but it's not over the line yet. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you. Are there any other speakers before I go back to Councillor Potter? Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I really hope this gets across the line. I think that the community supports it. I've recently had multiple conversations and discussions with community members in person, and like Councillor Owen said, we received 2 passionate letters, one from Octa and one from the family of the James Hicks himself. So I am really supportive of this, and as the Mayor shared, this is just one milestone on the road to having our kiln shining and beautiful, but it's an important step. So it is a celebration, I think, if my fellow councillors vote with me anyway. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.1.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7.2.1, response to notice of motion 1109, Gender Equality Action Plan. The recommendation here is that council confirms its support for gender impact assessment reporting improvements as outlined in this report. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Colin Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Is there a seconder? Councillor Potter. Councillor Ross to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. I was the one who moved the original notice of motion. I believe that we need to be above and beyond in this area of gender equity on council. I believe we've got probably, I think it's around 70 to 80% of our staff are female. I think it's really, really sad that so many organisations or have an idea that there can be an equity change in gender, and I think it's really poor. I believe that we are best practice in this area, and I believe we strive to continue to be best practice. And having a gender equity assessment done on our reports and our actions and everything is just part of what you do today, just like climate change, just like sustainability, everything else. It should always be done to make sure that everything is fair and equitable for everybody. So I put this forward. I believe it keeps coming back to us, and I know that our staff look into this seriously. It's great that there's a Gender Equity Act now, that there is a minimum for people to follow, but I'd like to believe that we go forward. We surpass the basic standard and we go further in this. If people have a look at it for those who what it's going to cost, it doesn't cost us any more than what we do right now. We do all of these actions in best practice. So when you read the financial implications, it costs us no more than what we do now. So it's best practice, and I hope my fellow councillors will support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'm proud to be on a council that's best practice in this area, but we can't take our eye off the ball. It's important that we follow through with fair access and gender equity. As a woman and a mother to a daughter and a community leader, I agree council must always continue to take gender equality seriously because progress is not always permanent. It's a crazy world we live in. We must all stay vigilant to all of our rights and freedoms that we do take for granted. They haven't always been there. They are delicate and precious, so let's keep them. We must keep weeding the garden, not because the work is finished, but because equality requires constant care and commitment. In my own mother's lifetime, many women in Australia still didn't have full voting rights. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women weren't granted the right to vote federally until 1962. That's in living memory. And it wasn't made compulsory for them until 1984. That's less than a generation ago. We must also remember that globally, millions of women still lack basic freedoms. For most of history, women have had no voice. Only in recent decades have many of us begun to take part in decision-making spaces. The scale of that historical imbalance is staggering. This is why, one of the many reasons why I support Gender Equality Action Plan for councils and our council. Local government plays a critical role in shaping culture, employment practices and community services. Through clear action, councils can ensure safe workplaces, close gender pay gaps, foster leadership opportunities and deliver services that truly meet the needs of all genders. I want my daughter and everyone growing up in our community to know that equality is not only her right, but it's her future. And I believe it's our job to protect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Are there any other speakers? I see Councillor Liz Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, just briefly, I think it's really important that this really hones in on the gender impact assessments and getting them embedded into our organisation and becoming part of our regular practice. And I think having this reporting will keep that eye on the ball. Some of those this council's only done a few of those impact assessments. There's real opportunity for them to be doing them more regularly, and that was pointed out in our review that was done. So, and the reporting that we had to do to the respective authority. So I really support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any other speakers to this item? I'll go to Councillor Ross to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. This council's come a really long way. I can remember when I first got on council, there were 7 male councillors. And Councillor Owen and myself were the delegates to represent women on council because we had no female councillors to stand in that position. So we used to go to many different events that if we had female councillors, we would have had go on our behalf. Unfortunately, we didn't at the time, but what it does is it really does raise your attention to the inequity when it gets spoken about and highlighted at the things you go to as a delegate. And I'm proud to say that our council here really does recognise that. And I know that in the past we've had more general managers in the end that were female and female CEOs, and that's not because of any gender equity thing, it's because they're the best applicant. And quite often the women who put their hands forward are the best applicants. So I must say it should be fair and equitable, and they should be paid. And one of the areas where the pay gaps are is like on pay. It's quite astounding to think that people can do the same thing and get paid differently. But statistics tell us that. Hopefully we don't do that on council. I don't think we do. I haven't heard of it, but still I'm really supportive of this, and I'm glad to see my fellow councillors have had a chat about this and they support it too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. So we'll put the officer recommendation to item 7.2.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Agenda item 7.2.2, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987. The recommendation here is that Council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 147, subsection 4 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolves that 1, the member of Council staff referred to in the attached instrument be appointed and authorised as set out in the instrument. Katrina Little. 2, that the instrument comes into force immediately it is signed by Council CEO and remains in force until Council determines to vary or revoke it. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has this agenda item in our meetings quite regularly, but it's really important. Council and the CEO under delegated powers often appoint officers to be authorised officers under the relevant legislation to allow them to perform the duties of their role. Section 147, subsection 4 of the Planning and Environment Act 1997 allows Council to appoint officers to be authorised officers for the purposes of the Planning and Enforcement Act 1987 and the regulations made under that Act. Katrina Little is required to be authorised officer in the performance of their duties. Authorised officers under the Planning Environment Act 1987 can only be appointed by a resolution of council, and that's why it's before us today. So it is recommended that council appoint Katrina Little to be an authorised officer. So I move so.
Thank you. Councillor Pomeroy.
I would like to second this motion. Supporting this recommendation is straightforward. It promotes effective governance, compliance and operational efficiency. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? I see none. I'll go to Councillor Owen to summarise.
No further, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer's recommendation to agenda item 7.2.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7.2.3, Arts and Culture Reference Group appointments. The recommendation is that Council 1 appoints the following 6 persons to the Cardinia Arts and Culture Reference Group. A. Gillian Ronald, B. Kaiser Sango, C. Patricia Buan Christiani, D. Phil Byers, E. Peter Biren, F. Andrew Russell. And 2, thanks community members for submitting applications. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Sam Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the officer's motion as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Liz Roberts. Over to you, Councillor Potter.
It's exciting that the Art and Cultural Advisory Group is being reprised. COVID stopped the previous incarnation, I understand, and now this time it's being revitalised and strengthened as a council-endorsed advisory body. A renewed focus will be placed on aligning the group's work with the broader strategic direction for arts and culture in Cardinia Shire, supported by a structured agenda and clear terms of reference. The selection criteria for the new panel members required nominees to either be a resident of the Shire or have a strong connection to Cardinia, have a demonstrated understanding of local arts and culture, and have the ability to represent community interests and report back to the broader community. We conducted individual assessments of all applications, scoring each against the following selection criteria: experience, relevance of demonstrated experience and expertise in the arts and creative industries, local understanding, depth of knowledge and insight into local issues relating to arts and culture, connection to community, capacity to act as a liaison between the ARG and the broader creative community. In addition to scoring against these criteria, we considered broader representational factors to ensure a balanced and inclusive group. These included representation across a range of cultural art disciplines, inclusion of members with varying levels of involvement from recreation to professional practice, demographic and geographic diversity to ensure fair representation across Cardinia. I want to sincerely thank all the applicants. It was such a high calibre, but ultimately, after much deliberation, congratulate the 6 community members that the Mayor read out before to the Arts and Cultural Reference Group. These individuals represent a diverse range of artistic disciplines, geographic areas and levels of engagement across Cardinia. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now go to the seconder, Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. I support the officer's recommendation. I feel the appointees have demonstrated an understanding of local arts and culture, have the ability to report community interests, bring their own expertise, and also have the ability to report back to the broader community. They bring expertise from community arts, film, literary arts, tourism and digital arts, arts education and theatre. Amongst them are long-term contributors to our local art scene, and there are also those more recently moved to the Shire, bringing with them strong expertise, particularly in film and theatre. Once the group is appointed, they will work together to plan the strategic agenda for the coming year in the arts and culture field. The terms of reference of the group have been updated. The chair will be one of these appointees rather than a councillor as it was in the past. This puts the focus on arts expertise. This is a good change. The group is required to report back to council on its strategic agenda quarterly. Members serve for 2 years with the option of another 2. I strongly encourage those who were not successful to apply again in the future. There were some really strong applications that unfortunately did not make the committee, who I feel should give it a go again. It's good to have that we've got that talent in the wings in our Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. I see Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillors Potter and Roberts, for your comments. I believe that arts and culture belongs to the people and should be governed by the people, both artists and their communities, not by government. But because we all pay rates and taxes and there's not much left over for us to support the arts, we rely on the council or other departments of government to support the arts for us. Unfortunately, this removes some choice and sometimes has its own agenda. I commend the work done by officers to resurrect this arts panel, who will play an important role in future decision making and the quality of Cardinia's arts and cultural landscape. I'm really pleased to know that our artists, whether in theatre, dance, visual arts, literature or media arts, will not only get their own say in how our cultural landscape should be expressed and developed, but that through their networks and wider feedback, all residents will feel a greater ownership of the arts and cultural expression in Cardinia. This community panel is the start of the community getting some voice back in the funding equation. I hope that in time its scope of responsibility can grow, and I look forward to seeing arts and culture truly given wings to thrive in Cardinia, and for Cardinia's arts practice to gain the recognition and sustainability that it deserves on a broader scale. I'm impressed with the strength of the nominations that were submitted and congratulate those who were selected to represent the panel. I've every confidence in their success. I also make mention of the wisdom and dedication to the arts and culture that our 2 councillors, Sam Potter and Liz Roberts, bring to this group, and thank them for representing me and other councillors on that committee. I support this very worthwhile and change-making motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Bringing some background at this, historically Cardinia Shire had an arts advisory group. However, the group had not convened for several years following the COVID-19 epidemic. During this period, a decision was made to discontinue the group. It was not recognised at the time the group's formal status as a council-endorsed advisory body. In light of this, the current approach seeks to re-evaluate and re-establish the Arts Advisory Group, ensuring that its role is clearly defined and evaluated as a strategic advisor to council. A renewed focus will be placed on aligning the group with the brightest strategic direction for arts and culture in Cardinia Shire, supported by the structured agenda and clear terms of reference. This is a really good decision. It's really, really sad to see that we did not have an arts and culture group from the community basis. They do some wonderful work. Anyone who's went down to have a look at the Pakenham Art Show on the weekend would have seen an amazing display down there. And it's a shame we don't have more of our wonderful artists locally put their pieces of artwork in. I think they undervalue themselves, but absolutely wonderful. And when you have a look at the people who have been put on this group, I think it's wonderful. It covers community arts, film, literary arts, tourism and digital arts, arts education and theatre. So I think this is only the beginning. We've got some really good places here. We've got some amazingly talented people in the community. And I look forward to trying to equal up the money in some ways. I know with sport and that sort of thing, we put in literally millions and millions of dollars in the arts area. We put in cents. So hopefully in time it will equal itself out and people will see that value, because everyone doesn't kick a footy or play cricket or play netball. Other people do many other art. They have talent in art and they should be promoted and recognised. Anyway, I hope everyone supports this. It's a wonderful initiative. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Are there any other speakers? I'll go back to Councillor Potter to sum up.
Cool. Thank you very much. Art is human. It's for the people. It's personal. It's public. It's vital. It connects us to each other, to our stories and to our place, our home. This group is here to support artistic expression, share our creative voice. Honestly, anything is possible. Art helps shape community identity, encourages conversation, and gives people a sense of belonging and pride of place. Whether it's public art, live performance, music design, or storytelling, film, art gives voice to who we are. Even the World Health Organization notes that art can support us emotionally in times of crisis or illness or recovery. Art can heal, deepen understanding, connect people, inspire, and unite. It's in everything we do, how we dress, cook, speak, and feel. It reflects our emotional landscape. That's why we must value our artists the same way we do our sporting heroes. Let's celebrate their work and lift them up, because when artists shine, communities shine. As I said, the caliber of the applications for this group was so high, and genuinely all the applicants would have been excellent choices, and I hope they reapply in the future. I like that freshness. I even made the suggestion of why don't we just have all the applicants make one large group? But the world's leading research, such as the Harvard Business Review, highlights that 7 to 9 members is the optimal size group for decision making. So after much reflection, reading, thoughts, more discussions, anguish and input, we finally landed on 6 great individuals to join myself, Councillor Roberts, and the creative manager. It's balanced, diverse, and has representation from across our Shire, and will allow for strong, collaborative, constructive, creative conversations and discussions. And just in the name of transparency, I just want to say that I myself come with a deep love and lifelong connection to the arts, with my BA in Performance Art, postgrad in the Arts and Cultural Development. I co-founded the Cardinia creative community and performed theatre, toured music, curated visual art, and supported countless creative projects over
Councillor Potter. Sorry, that's 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Can I ask you to sum up for the next 5 seconds?
I can't wait to get started with this new team. This is a new chapter for arts and culture in Cardinia, and it's going to be professional, purposeful, people-focused. We're setting a strong foundation with clear direction, structure, and a shared commitment to see creativity for
Councillor Potter.
Done. Thank you. I'm very passionate.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Potter, just by way of governance rules, when you're called to order, you must stop speaking. Thank you. I did give you 5 seconds to wrap up and you just took a little bit far. So just so councillors understand, when you're called to order, you must stop speaking and wait for the chair to interject.
She can have another 30 seconds.
No, Councillor Ross, you can't. We're now going to put this to a vote.
Thank you.
No, Councillor Ross, you can't. We're now going to put this to a vote. The officer recommendation to agenda item 7.2.3. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. All right. Agenda item 7.4.1. Revenue and Rating Plan 2025-29. The recommendation here is that Council adopts the Revenue and Rating Plan 2025-29, which is attached to this report. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Trudy Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move an alternate motion to this item.
Thank you. Please read it out.
Can we place it on the screen, please, Peter?
I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, can I just check through you, Mayor, that this is an alternate for this item and not the next item being the budget?
So this is the Revenue and Rating Plan 2025-29, 7.4.1. That's correct? Okay. Sorry, just let me check that. In the published agenda, got 7.5.1 as a revenue.
Yeah, it should be the revenue and rating plan.
Yep. So in the public agenda and then in my agenda, I've got 7.4.1 as the revenue and rating plan. The agenda will be next. Sorry, the budget will be next.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. It's different for me. So
no worries at all. That's okay. So we definitely have the revenue and rating plan first. So I'll just read that out again so that we all can be clear about what we're talking about. So I've got agenda item 7.4.1, revenue and rating plan 2025 to 29. And the recommendation is that council adopts the revenue and rating plan 2025 to 2029, which is attached to this report. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Colin Ross.
Move the officer's report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Casey Thompson. Councillor Ross to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. This needs to be adopted by the 30th of June so that we can go through with our budget this year. I must say this was a really frustrating item coming up to this time, because there were several of my fellow councillors who wanted to do the review early. There's a review that's scheduled to commence in the second half of 2025, which hopefully will come back, and next year we'll be able to have a look at the review and see what movement can be made, if any, in this area. I must say, I believe we've condensed a few different things in here with slight movements, but in all, it's pretty much similar to what it was in the past. And we do need to pass this to go through so we can do our budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ross. As Councillor Ross mentioned, 30th of June 2025, we need to submit this new revenue rating plan for 25 to 29. The plan did go out to a period of public exhibition that was undertaken between the 15th of April and the 9th of May, and no community submissions were received, which is leading to the current recommendation that Council adopts the plan as exhibited. As touched on, the plan contains details on how Council will raise revenue needed to fund its activities, including advocating for funding from other levels of government, engaging in available investment opportunities, and ensuring the fair and equitable distribution of the remaining, burden between ratepayers and other users of council facilities and services. It's probably worth noting that over 50% of council revenue is currently funded by rates, and that this council in particular is very economically conscious that it will actively seek alternative revenue sources to help reduce the reliance on rate revenue to fund essential services and infrastructure for the community. Any changes resulting in the review that Councillor Ross mentioned before that will take place later this year will also be decided on and included in the 26-27 budget redevelopment process, which I'm sure there will be some interest in. I will leave it to anyone else who wants to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, I support the officer's recommendation. I would like to highlight the change in the differential rate for urban vacant land, which is being moved from 229% to 200% of the base rate. This provides small relief to those who may be waiting for their building of a home to commence or experience delays in their building schedule. Our overall revenue and rating plan needs an overhaul, and I look forward to quality consultation with the community on this in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any other councillors to speak? Councillor Potter.
In Cardinia, we have such diversity. We have everything from urban growth corridor, new Australians and families, putting everything they've got into building their first home, families renting, people watching every penny and budgeting their brains out, to more established residents, proud multi-generational families calling Cardinia home and farming communities. So from the urban growth corridor to the hills through to the farming railway towns, we need to be equitable and listen to everyone's story and treat this with great respect. And I look forward to doing the review carefully and thoroughly with professional council staff and my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Are there any other councillors to speak to this item? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. I would speak against the motion. I know we went through a process a little bit earlier in the year where the officer's recommendation was sort of put and carried, that we don't look at an alternate motion. And that to me indicated that we didn't do the work we needed to do on the rates review early enough to affect this year's sort of rates notification. There's a lot of anomalies in the rates. They haven't been substantively changed for many years, but the Shire has changed significantly and the demographics have changed significantly. And I think that it was a mistake for us to delay for another year a genuine review of the rates plan. So I'll stick with my principles. I'll put my bottom lip out, and I'll vote against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. And like Councillor Nicol, I'll speak against this motion. I think in April we made it fairly clear and tried to convince other councillors that in all local government, we have a responsibility to deliver a rating system that is fair and equitable across all of the categories. And this simply is not. Cardinia it needs to respect the people who have sustained this land long before development was ever considered. Equity means recognising the difference between land speculation and land stewardship. If growth is being driven by developers and government planning, then they should be paying for it, not the people who are trying to keep producing food, supporting families and holding their communities together. When you increase the rates farmers have to pay, you're not just hurting individual landholders, you're increasing the cost of food production. And when food production costs rise, so too does the cost of living for everyone. That hits the most vulnerable in our community the hardest. It adds pressure to the already strained households, contributes to mental health issues, stress, even suicide and domestic violence. And these are the real human consequences of policy decisions made on paper and our vote tonight. In essence, we can't wait another 12 months. I think there was a comment made earlier in our town planning meeting last week that our farmers are at the cliff edge of being able to continue farming. They have sustained a long period of drought. They are completely reliant on the next spring season to decide whether they can even have any income for the coming year at all. And I just think we've not done our job. We haven't delivered the relief that we need to do. And for that reason, I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Are there any other speakers to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Ross to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for sharing. This is, I must say, one of the most frustrating things when people first get on council, that so many things are in train, and it is hard to turn the Titanic round very quickly. With the review coming later this year, it will take into account things like financial pressures, taxation benefits, financial investment impacts, and other specific benefits derived from council services that people get in the review process. I think it's been highlighted by some of our, particularly new councillors, that it needs to be more of a moving document. In the past, it's been a very static document that we had. We used to have so many more categories in this, but it wasn't good governance to have that many. So it was reduced, but sometimes we can always be looking to do things better. I look forward to the review coming back, and I'm sure those things will be taken into account, like farmers and things like that. So if it needs to be done, we will make some changes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.4.1 to confirm that's the revenue and rating plan. Up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Now we will move to agenda item 7.4.2, adoption of the 25-26 budget, including the capital works program. The recommendation here is that Council 1 adopts the 25-26 budget along with the supporting capital works program for the purposes of Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. 2, provides funding support towards the Kuirap Netball Courts refurbishment and lighting replacement, subject to the successful confirmation of external funding commitments and confirmation of landowner permission. And 3, adopts the declaration and levy of rates and charges for the 2025-26 financial year contained within the 25-26 budget for the purposes of Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. Do I have a mover for this item? I see Councillor Payton first.
Thank you, Mayor. I move an alternate motion for this item.
Please read it out.
My motion approves the first 3 points of the original motion, amending point 3 as highlighted. It then adds a further 3 conditions as highlighted. So point 4 freezes rates at the 2024-25 level, representing the required minimum payment. Point 5 amends the format of rates notices to offer an offer an optional second payment equal to a 3% increase in line with the state government's rate cap. Point 6 includes a letter with all rates notices explaining the changed payment options with a chart showing how rates revenue is allocated across expenditure categories.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a seconder for that item?
I'll second it.
Councillor Colin Ross. Councillor Payton to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. The state's rate cap is a limit, not a target. The original motion rests on the principle that Council adopts a general rates increase of 3% in line with the state's cap. What if the rate cap had been set at 2% or 1%? We'd have had no choice but to comply, and we would have had different conversations during the past few months. Losing the 3% increase means losing about $4 million in the budget's total revenue, $4 million off the total of $285 million. Budgets are not static, they're a moving story that inform the actions across the year. We have an amazing team of finance professionals, and in this room we have an amazing group of councillors. Together we are wholly capable of meeting whatever challenges we set ourselves. We are a council with assets of more than $3 billion. The risk to freeze rates is calculated to disrupt this council's status quo. It's designed to incentivise the more difficult discussions to be had, and it will demonstrate to our ratepayers that we are serious about trying to support them through difficult times. Practically, this change will still achieve the budget as set, with two top-line alterations. The total revenue of some $285 million will be reduced by about $4 million to $281 million, and the underlying budget deficit will be similarly adjusted. Our team then has 12 months of a shifted goal to do better for our people and to reduce that deficit with adjusted work plans. When we were all first elected, we spoke about the style of leadership that we wanted to present for our communities. Being brave and fierce was unanimously agreed. We expect the council staff to be brave and fierce, but it is up to us as leaders of this council to model that first. Think of any brave and fierce leaders, and what you get is they set a vision to drive significant change, and they adopt an attitude to be the change that they want to see. They set ambitious and seemingly unachievable goals to drive the vision for change. They overcome obstacles and setbacks using innovation and discipline and strategic thinking to work smarter, not harder. Even when there is much uncertainty, they put the faith in their team to dig deep and to find a way through to achieve the goals. And finally, they motivate and empower their team to achieve the extraordinary. Are you prepared to be brave and fierce? Are you prepared to fight for all the families, farmers, pensioners, single parents, small business who can't pay the bills that they have now, much less the rates notice that is coming? I'm challenging all of you to take a moment now, with some silence for me for the rest of my speaking time, to consider what I've said and form your argument. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Ross as a seconder.
Sorry, Mayor. Can I just have silence in the remaining speaking time? That was the aim.
No, Councillor Payton, you can't.
Okay.
Councillor Ross as seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. I seconded it for the purpose of discussion. I must say, in the past, I've been a person who did move for a rate freeze during the GFC, during certain times when people were doing it extremely hard. Back then, we didn't have rate capping, so there was a capacity for council to even rate people more highly if you got behind in your rates. Unfortunately, with rate capping, we don't have that at our disposal. I must say that with rate capping now, with things like the Growing Suburbs Fund being taken away now, we used to get between $4 and $6 million a year in money from the Growing Suburbs Fund, which puts council under so much more pressure. I would like to be able to support something like a rate freeze, but unfortunately I know at the moment, even with the rate cap, we're going to grind to a halt in the end because it won't be enough money to cover the council CPI that comes through, where we have so many things that go well above the CPI. I think the rate cap at the moment, without getting government funding for so many other things, is going to really push council to have to make decisions about infrastructure, coming to a snail's pace in the end, and having to question different services that we provide that are much needed by the community. Anyway, I think it's good that Councillor Payton has put forward an alternate for people to have a look at. I must say I support the rate cap because I just think we can't get any further behind on the rating income because we just won't recover. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
If this motion isn't passed, I'd like to foreshadow an alternate motion.
Thank you. I'll note that and we'll go to that if we get to that. Councillor Pomeroy, thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I acknowledge Councillor Payton's passion in this area. It is disappointing that I've only learnt of the contents of this alternative motion 5 minutes ago. So it's really hard. We need to adopt a budget tonight. It's really hard to have an impact on our budget that we worked on for 6 months. So I've got real concerns about us making a decision on this alternative motion. Can I ask a question? Obviously, if this motion is passed, adopted, how does it impact the draft budget? Do we have? Yep. How does it?
We note that, so we'll refer that question to General Manager Wayne Mack.
Through you, Mayor. My understanding is that from Councillor Payton's introduction was that it'll impact the draft budget by raising less revenue of about $3.3 to $3.5 million, and the adjusted underlying deficit will go up by the same amount. The compounding impact, so we can proceed and deliver the same services and projects, we'll just have a bigger deficit that would eat into our cash reserves. There will be a compounding impact of this. So it will be 3.3 and then it will be increased year on year.
Thank you. Yeah.
If it's frozen at the 24-25 level. If I may, Mayor, point 5 talks about amending the format of the rates notice to include an optional second payment. I think our system will struggle to implement that. I have not verified that element of this motion. So I think.
All right. Thank you. No, that's okay. I just want to be sure that we answer Councillor Owen's question and don't seek to influence the debate. Councillor Owen, you satisfied with that response?
Yes, thank you. And just a little bit more.
Yep. I'll just start your time again. Yep.
Regarding the budget influences as outlined in the papers, there are so many pressures, whether it's population growth, obviously rate capping, we talk about that, cost shifting between other levels of government. That's a real issue for this council. Natural disasters, defined benefits superannuation, enterprise agreement, and there's other internal influences as well. So we have discussed all this through the 6 months and we've made a decision on the draft budget, and that's in the papers. So I cannot support this alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Potter.
In principle, I would like to be able to support this. Obviously, saving money for residents is obviously something all of us would love. But I wish you had shared it earlier with us so we could have discussed it and thrashed it out as a team like we've done over the last 6 months. It's difficult to look because our budget is so detailed and we've discussed every inch of it. And we have been doing that for 6 months. It's difficult to just change it all suddenly in 5 minutes. So I can't support it either. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, yeah, I'm probably just trying to buy myself some time here to really think this over. I really appreciate your words, Councillor Payton, and we did unanimously agree on being bold and fearless. I think the defining factor for me is that the forecast we've got set up for the draft budget is very, very promising for this council, but we were hit 11th hour with the ministerial guidelines for the general waste charge, and there's an increased EPA landfill levy as well that we're kind of taking the hit on and not passing on to our residents. And I think if we take another hit at this, like we said, the draft budget's already gone out for consultation and whatnot. It seems too much, too late kind of thing for me personally. Like I said, I think I'm just trying to buy myself some time to really think it over to see if there's a way around it. That's all I'll say for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no other speakers, I'll go back. Councillor Roberts, yep.
Thank you. Councillor Payton, while I'm mindful of the community distress that is occurring and the hardship that people are experiencing, I do feel that we have payment plans available to the community, and that we have staff here who can assist community members to work through solutions for them to be able to pay their rates. I feel the pressures that we are experiencing from the increased costs that for providing all of our services, we do need to be able to keep on top of that so that we don't go further into debt. And in my writing my notes up for this, I was very cognizant for this to talk about the budget. I was very cognitively aware that things are going to get harder and harder for us in the next 3 years, and this budget will be probably the loosest that we'll be able to do, and that things are going to get tougher. But we need to be at this 3% at this time to enable us to start that work to pull our debt down and keep working on keeping that our debt not becoming unsustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a good one. So I'll speak in favour of it because, like us all, it's got me thinking, which is great. What it does is it pushes us all into a corner, and I like that. It actually sharpens up what we keep on saying, and what all leaders in all sectors in Australia keep on saying. Oh, isn't the cost of living terrible? Oh, those poor homeless people. What this does is it puts us in the corner for a change, and we've got to work harder now for 12 months. So I support it, number one, on that principle. It's actually a step further than we were hoping to go in reviewing our rates plan. And the thing that I like about this is that it doesn't even increase our underlying deficit greater than the year we've just come off. So what we're doing is we're returning to an underlying deficit that we were happy with last year, and we're returning back to that. So in the scheme of things, as much as I hate that underlying deficit and the structural problems that we've got with this Shire, with growth corridor, PSP, precinct plans that are underfunded, that we have to accept without the developer paying their fair share, and that the rest of the community needs to bear that burden and go without something else. It forces us to come to terms with our unmade local road network through all the rural areas that for decades now has not been made, and therefore costs us a bomb in maintenance year after year after year. It forces us to reckon with some of the structural underlying things that are wrong and are not working for the Cardinia community. To recover 3.5 mil is a reasonable ask for us as a leadership team for the next year. So in principle, I support it, and I'm up for the challenge.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? There being none, I'll just quickly jump in. I'm not going to support Councillor Payton's alternate, and I appreciate the sentiment you put forward to keep costs low for working families particularly. That's something that really resonates with me. a lot. I think one thing that often is missed from the conversation when we talk about rates, which is obviously a big thing, and I'll be speaking on it a little bit later, is the total tax take that Australians pay. Something we don't seem to be aware of. 80% of the tax that you pay is to the federal government. 80% of the tax that you pay is to the federal government. 3.5% of total tax that you pay is to your local council. So I think when we think about the impact to local council, I think the answer comes in financial assistance grants in terms of getting that up from the federal government. So for the federal government to give councils more funding directly so that we are sustainable, so that we don't have to pass costs onto our residents in the same way that we do now. And so we aren't begging and scraping to provide essential services. So I appreciate the sentiment that you're trying to do here. I can't support it because I don't think it's sustainable and it shows proper financial stewardship. But I think you've highlighted a fantastic problem that needs to be solved, a wicked problem that needs to be solved, and that is the federal government holding councils over the barrel in terms of financial assistance grants. When they came in, they used to be 1% of total tax revenue went to councils. Now it's less than 0.5%. So I just thought I'd make that point. I think local government is having a hard time at the moment across the sector, and I think it's the federal government's job to respond to that. Councillor Ross, I think you've already had your chance to speak to this.
I just was going to have a point of order, please,
Okay,
Mayor.
yep.
Just on the basis of clarifying something. The federal government can't give us directly money on council. That's why the Constitution had to be changed to include councils in the Constitution. They've got to give it to the state government that gives it on to us. That's one of the most frustrating things.
Thank you.
As you
Councillor
pointed out, Mayor, 80% goes there. They can't give it directly to councils. They have to give it to state government, who
in turn comes to us.
Exactly.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank
It's
you,
not a point of order, but I appreciate the correction.
Yeah,
I'm going to go to Councillor Payton to summarise her alternate before we put it to a vote for 2 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to confirm and clarify, being the change is about changing the things that are in your control to change. And that's why I've selected our budget, because we can do that. We can advocate all we like, but, you know, what's our chances? I really want to focus on point 5, amends the format of rates notice to offer an operational second payment equal to a 3% increase in line with state government's rate cap. We went out to the community asking for their feedback on our budget. We've got a community of residents that's around 130,000 people. We got less than 100 responses to our budget. So offering this rates notice actually gets people, they can still pay for the 3% increase if they wish. That's why I want a part A, that's what the base payment is, and an optional 3% increase. If they can afford it, if they don't want to lose services, if they can pay that extra money, then the ask is there. Just quickly, I want to also say, I just go back to the point that a budget is not static. It's a moving story. It's something that evolves with us. And if you're worried about losing things out of the budget, every single family, every single person is thinking about what they're going to lose and what they can't afford to pay, like they were paying 6 months ago, 10 years ago. Regarding the capital works plan, the budget is settled with capital works commitments from previous councils. We have to carry these expenses forward, and it affects the underlying budget deficit because the projects are on Crown land and can't be capitalised, so they affect our profits.
Councillor, that's time. So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to put Councillor Payton's alternate up for a vote. This is for agenda item 7.4.2. There's been an alternate presented by Councillor Payton, seconded by Councillor Ross, who was earlier listed on the screen. All those in favour of Councillor Payton's alternate, raise your hand. All those against? I declare that alternate lost. So I'm going to throw the floor to Councillor Pomeroy, who foreshadowed an alternate. Can you please list your alternate motion?
I can. The council adopts the 2025-26 budget along with the supporting capital works program for the purposes of section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, provides funding support towards the Coorabunga Netball Court's refurbishment and lighting replacement, subject to the successful confirmation of external funding commitments and confirmation of landowner permission, adopts a declaration and levy of rates and charges for the 25-26 financial year contained within the 2025-26 budget for the purposes of Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. And the point that I would like to add is waives the fee relating to application for a farm shed exempt from building permit for the 25-26 financial year.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. So just so we're clear, Councillor Pomeroy's alternate is the first 3 points of the officer's recommendation, an additional 4th point. Do I have a seconder for this alternate? Councillor Colin Ross. Councillor Pomeroy, over to you for 5 minutes.
Thanks. Firstly, I'll address why the alternate. The budget, as many of you will have seen in the reports, includes a massive list of user fees and charges. And there's lots of fees and charges here that I do encourage community groups to have a good look through, because there are plenty of changes, but the majority do stay at the 3% increase. However, there is a new permit fee for an application of a farm shed. This is $1,000. It is the first time that this fee will be introduced. And I appreciate that when officers went through this report and the fee was first proposed in the planning stages, that we could not have predicted that we would be in drought well into winter. While we have had some recent rain, it is not enough. Adding in this fee while the state government has declared Cardinia in drought doesn't meet our community expectations. Our farmers, because they are in drought, have access to the state government on-farm drought infrastructure program, which means that they can actually apply to upgrade a shed for fodder storage. Hay will be incredibly difficult to not only source, but for farmers that can, they can have a co-contribution to this. By waiving the $1,000 permit fee, we help ensure that these farmers can fully benefit from this grant rather than having the first 20% of it consumed by permit costs. So it's not about removing an existing permit fee. There was no fee. And I do appreciate that the municipal building surveyor takes time and care in each application, but now is not the time to implement this. Based on 2024, this permit fee would have only raised $5,000. That's 5 sheds that this would have applied to. So there will be minimal impact to council's budget. I'd like to touch on the council budget. We will need to borrow $17 million to support the delivery of the capital works program, and we are expecting a deficit of $3.4 million. We do have lots of hard decisions, and we've seen them tonight. We've heard about them. We've also got a heap of cases coming up, and I'd like to refer to point 2 about the Coorabunga Netball Club's funding commitment to their netball courts. These netball courts are in deterioration, but they aren't ours. They sit on Deaker land, but council has for generations made sure that our sporting and community infrastructure hasn't just fallen into disrepair because where it sits. Now that decision will come before us, and we are waiting on a report from council officers as to the best way forward. And we may change our tune on this, but right now I am in full support of this being done. And I do implore the state government to look at the grant application and fund it. It is your responsibility. So this is my alternative, and I'm happy to hear from others. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Ross. You got the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I must say, this is just so grossly unfair. $1,000 fee on a shed on a farmer. Unbelievable. From 0 to 1,000. If this was on any other application, people would be up in arms, and rightfully so. I mean, and as Councillor Pomeroy pointed out, there was only 5 applications, so it's not going to make a huge dent on the budget. I mean, I just think this is just grossly unfair at a time when councillors have pointed out about a rate that farmers are doing it hard, and it's going to be taken into account in the review that we do, the rating policy. This is not a hit that those people should get. People in the suburban area aren't going to put up a farm shed, but farmers are. So I just think it's terrible. I can't support anything that puts things up like that. So that's in one area I will support this alternate motion, notice of motion. And I must say the Coorabunga Netball Courts, it is an absolute embarrassment that we've built this brand new pavilion down there, but the courts are going to be unplayable. So you're going to have this wonderful pavilion down there and you can't play on the courts. How it got to this, I have got no idea. And to be honest, people who run for elections should be putting in money hand over fist to do things like this, because in small towns like Cooey-Rupp, the netball club has produced Australian people who play for Australia and gives a vision, and many of the Gippsland Power netballers come from places like Cooey-Rupp. It should be supported. It should be number one. They shouldn't be putting money to other things other than the surfaces that they play on. It is really, really important, and it will be hugely embarrassing to have a new pavilion on DSE land and you can't play on the courts. I'll be supporting this alternate motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Potter.
I completely agree, and I will be supporting it too. Thank you. And I also just wanted to highlight one small part of the budget report in particular, as I know Officer and wider Cardinia community will be interested, that the Officer City Soccer Club and their submission to progress McMullen Reserve, the master planning opportunities to bring the project of the Officer Soccer Club forward will be considered in the development of the 26-27 budget, with a view to commence the master plan development in 26-27. So that's good news.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak to the budget just for a minute or two. I want to highlight the fact that this budget has a greater focus on renewing existing assets and protecting what we've got rather than investing too heavily in new infrastructure, just highlighting the fact that this council isn't just spend happy and that we are economically mindful of the current landscape around. Obviously, we've just gone through an alternate that didn't pass about we're still probably going to pass on 3% to residents and ratepayers. And I don't feel good about doing that, but I suppose it is also worth highlighting that with the current levy that's come in, that's quite the hot topic at the moment as well, that I almost feel that if we did pass that alternate, it could almost be a bit of a bailout for the state government, and that those funds could then be allocated to that levy, which no one's happy about and no one seems to be in support of. Yet everyone's hands getting forced by the state government. So here we are. It is also worth mentioning that council, with the rate revenue that we do receive, we provide over 120 services to the community, including 6.3 million for early years development and early childhood education care, 2 million for community safety and inclusion, 700,000 for youth services, and 2.5 million for libraries, and 6.4 million for compliance services and emergency management. So we do have a lot of operating costs that unfortunately we do need some form of revenue from. Yes, we're conscious of money. Yes, we're looking at alternative revenue strategies that we will be pushing hard for in the next 2, 3, 4 years while we're elected as the current council. But for now, yeah, I am supportive of this budget and the alternate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Trudy Payton, who was next.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all councillors for your comments thus far. Because I cannot support the 3% increase, I won't be supporting the motion, but I really do appreciate and thank you, Councillor Pomeroy, for pulling out this idea of the shed. And if it was a budget of zero, I would certainly support the shed and the waiver of the fee. I just want to speak basically on the Cooey-Rupp Netball Court resurfacing project. I'm really pleased that after many years that this council will agree to meet the funding shortfall after other funding options have been exhausted and confirmed, and that finally the project can be finished. I looked up to see the agenda for the meeting this time last year, and you'll notice that Cooey-Rupp Netball Club was on there with this same project, and it's very disappointing to see that nothing really has happened in that 12 months. The kids missing out on playing netball and the women don't care who owns the land that their courts are built on. Their parents who pay rates also don't care who owns the land and expect council to treat their sports facilities equally with that of other towns in the Shire. This council is committed to gender equality, as we've just voted. We are committed to promoting participation of girls and women in sport because a policy was passed at the end of last year, just before we were elected. And we are committed to social justice that extends to geographic location. Maintaining and renewing playing surfaces should not be up for debate or at a lower priority than building fancy new pavilions for the fans. So I look forward to the vote and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be supporting this budget. I just want to acknowledge the submissions that were given to council as a result of our consultation with the community. I do note, out of the formal consultations, I don't believe there was a submission about the 3%. There was definitely submissions about needing more infrastructure, more investment in roads. And I do want to acknowledge one of the submissions, the Gembrook Community Group, who provided a detailed submission way before the budget period consultation began. But I'm really pleased that in this budget we are increasing our investment in our roads, mainly our unsealed roads, which is definitely something that I'm hearing loud and clear from people in my community. So I really wanted to highlight with time some of the key projects. Home Park Road resurfacing, recreation reserve. The Pakenham Outdoor Pool, $405,000. Investment in the Pakenham Outdoor Pool. So other programs, as I talked about roads, the road resurfacing program, $3 million on the resurfacing, long list of roads proposed. McBride Street Kindergarten in Upper Beaconsfield, a renewal of over $300,000. The Better Local Roads, Cardinia Shire, $5 million, and that includes Bessie Creek, Huxtable Road. Also, Ceiling Hills program, $6.4 million. Really pleased to see Mount Burnett Road get a Guernsey after all these years, and that was part of the Gembrook submission as well. We continue with our investment with the Disability Access Upgrade program of $240,000, and that was highlighted in last year's consultation of the importance of that. $5.8 million for completing the Upper Beaconsfield Rec Reserve. Great. I acknowledge the considerable state government contribution for that project, which we should always get for state-owned assets, but it is quite substantial. So I'm really pleased with that. Thanks to all these submitters, and I want to thank, obviously, councillors. It's been a long journey, this budget, 6 months, and acknowledge the great work of our officers who have worked really hard on the preparation of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, I will be supporting this motion and the alternate point 4 from Councillor Pomeroy. I had a good look at the rates and charges, and there are areas where they are increasing, and there will be, a bit more user pays occurring. But it's quite obvious that this isn't a necessary fee at this time, given the drought. And even potentially, $1,000 is quite a bit, whether it could be less if it was to be introduced again, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I wanted to highlight a few other things in the budget documents, particularly the Statement of Human Resources on page 37. The budget allows for 527.3 full-time equivalent staff, and it's forecast that this will remain the level of staffing for this council's entire term. This will mean that staff will have to be working smarter and harder as the Shire continues to grow at a rate of 3 to 4 additional households a day. As Councillor Casey Thompson mentioned, a lot of the items in this budget are about renewal. An example in my ward is $195,000 being put to the Ron Andrews Park playground, a playground that's close to 20 years old. It's wooden at the end of its life and has chocks around the bottom of it, painted with blue paint so kids don't trip over it. So this is in the growth area. So, council's been working hard on keeping the renewal of the playgrounds going for our young people. So that one made the cut. As Councillor Payton pointed out, there are commitments that have been made in terms of our capital infrastructure. An example in my ward is the last remaining part in Pakenham of McGregor Road to be duplicated at Henty Street. The community have been waiting for that to be done under the rail bridge, and gate funding came through too late for last year's budget, really, for it to be done in the last 12 months. So that project will hopefully get underway. So there's a lot of good things, as Councillor Owen pointed out, in this budget, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak in favour of the alternate motion as well. And I thank Councillor Pomeroy for picking up on the new fee and aligning it to Council's values. Thank you. As Councillor Thompson pointed out, the change of emphasis in this year's budget is good. The direction is sound, shifting across from more onto renewal as opposed to new emphasise the emphasis in the past on new infrastructure. In addition to that, page 2 of the excellent officer's report indicates the pressures that council is under, with 3 families moving into our municipality daily, and at the same time, more than 800 kilometres of still unsealed roads across our rural areas. These 2 major themes, population growth and an already existing roads and drains infrastructure backlog, can't be ignored, and their impacts felt right through this budget. I'd add a 3rd and 4th major theme in federal and state government grants, which we've already talked about in previous failed motion, and also cost shifting. On the population growth matter, as we go down to page 5 of the officer's report, population growth is up 2.5%, but this budget still creeps expenditure up 4%. We've got challenges ahead of us, and that's one of the reasons why I supported the previous alternate motion as well, is that more radical action is required. Yes, this budget is starting to turn the ship around, but I was happy to support Councillor Payton's suggestion that we actually turn the rudder another couple of cranks of the tiller. The direction of the turnaround has seen a 56% drop in the underlying deficit, but more work will be needed. It's still minus $3.4 million a year, and we still continue to chew into cash reserves the longer that deficit's sustained. So we have to get more radical than we have been prepared to be this year. How have we done this year? Capital Works has had an $8.2 million haircut. It's 10% more disciplined than previously. And although I know our sporting clubs are fantastic, right? We've come off a decade and a half of building these Taj Mahals and community expectations about how many dollars the rest of the community throws at their club rooms has got to change. And we've started that. We've started taking tentative steps with Capital Works down 8.2 mil this year.
Sorry, Councillor Nicol, that's over 3 minutes now.
Thank you. There's lots of I'd just like to commend the officers on the quality of the report. There were lots of talking points that I've pulled out of this report, and I encourage the ratepayers to have a read of it.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Are there any other speakers to this item? I'll just quickly speak to this item. Obviously, you can read mine and the CEO's introduction to the budget, but I'm excited, about this budget. It's a big deal when a council presents a budget, and of course, it's not perfect. But in 15 days, when we tick over to the end of financial year, we need a budget to be operating from, and I think it's a really, really good result. I appreciate Councillor Owen's comments before. I was pleased to hear you highlight some really exciting projects. I think I saw over $40 million worth of investment in roads and drains in next budget. I mean, there's significant amounts of money towards getting the basics right, and that's what this council does and is starting to do at a more efficient rate, which is pleasing to see. Councillor Nicol, thanks for mentioning the improved financial result in terms of our adjusted underlying result being essentially cut in half or thereabouts. So that is a good thing. And from my perspective, I don't think it is alarm bells that council has taken on a little bit more debt. We are a growing council. We see with our neighbours in Casey that they have more than double the population and less than half the geographical area and are 20 years ahead of us on their growth journey and are in a better financial position. It's okay to borrow for the future when you have the growth that we have, and we need to support the families that we do. Very exciting to see some significant funding coming up for the Pakenham Revitalisation Project, which the town is absolutely crying out for, and myself and Councillor Roberts are we're very excited to see that happening starting soon, and I appreciate Councillor Roberts has questions about that coming up. But I just want everyone to, if you don't want to read the budget, that's fine. I understand it can be tedious, but just roll to the capital plan. It's in one of the attachments, and have a look and try and find one of those projects that you can pick fault with, because all of those projects, whether they're exercise equipment, basketball half court renewals, skate park renewals, cricket club, cricket nets, so not Taj Mahals, cricket nets that they actually need to train, car park resurfacing, HVAC, it's all stuff that is needed and stuff that our community has cried out for, and I think it's delivering in a big way. It's not perfect, but it is delivering. Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy, for a sensible alternate to get rid of this $1,000 fee for farmers. That's a tangible way that this council can help farmers, and we've done that. So that's enough from me. I'll go to you to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone, not only for your support, but across both the motions. I think what I really take out of this is our diverse opinions drive better outcomes for our community. And every time we came into a budget meeting, there were great questions, there was great clarity, and the officers have done a power of work to not only answer our questions, but to also give us some greater certainty that, yes, we are on the right track. We do need to be brave and fearless, and we do need to keep asking questions. And I think our deliberative panel probably knocked it on the head when they weren't sure whether it was cuts to services or cuts to rates. They were like, we don't have enough information. And I feel like as councillors, we're asking for more information, and that will come evident through the council plan. So thank you. I also really, I know Councillor Owen touched on it, but the people that are submitting things to the budget, this is invaluable for us. It was very clear there were some full submissions, but even just some feedback on funding towards early years, youth services, roads. Someone even noted that our plant equipment, the graders and things were looking really old, and maybe we should invest in some new ones. So people are diligently helping us make decisions. So thank you. But thank you to everyone around the table for your diverse opinions. It does make better decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. So we'll now put the Deputy Mayor's alternate up for a vote in relation to the adoption of the 25-26 budget, including the Capital Works program. So for Councillor Pomeroy's alternate, all those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Let's go to agenda item 7.4.3, the Capital Works report and contract variation request for May 25. The recommendation here is that council receives and notes the May 2025 Capital Works report and approves a contract variation amount of $153,809.74 relating to Bayview Road, CT 000029, bringing the approved contract limit to $8,913,421.23. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Casey Thompson.
I move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy. Councillor Thompson, over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I will leave it to my other councillors if they wish to speak further to the Capital Works report, a really good report that is a nice full in-depth summary of the delivery that council has. Currently, as of 30 May, council has delivered 61% of the fin year 24-25 Capital Works plan and is currently forecasting to deliver capital works to the value of 77 million by the end of this financial year. And I'll also like to quickly speak to the contract variation at Bayview Road. Yes, it is in a variation of $153,000 to almost $154,000, and it has been triggered as it's outside of the CEO's delegated authority, so it has come to tonight's council meeting for discussion and approval. This one did come to us a little bit late, so there were a few questions around it, but I suppose what is pleasing about it, although we are requesting more money, is that the project was delivered under budget. Even if in a confidential matter, I would still probably love to get some information around what additional works were required or were taken out we have to vary this contract, but I'm still happy to support the officer's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Pomeroy, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I love this report. There's some really good things in here, and I would just like to highlight a few. Bessie Creek Road has been sealed, stage 1, very exciting. Signage and guideposts will be installed in coming days for anyone that lives on that road or uses that road. It's a great outcome to get that done before winter really sets in. Greenland Court in Garfield is a new playground and consultation has closed, and I look forward to seeing the designs and having that up and running for summer school holidays. And Narnagoon Football Club will be very excited to have some lights on their second oval shortly so the juniors can head back out and play on there. And also I'd like to note that the slab has gone down for the Garfield North Cannibal Creek Community Hub, and as this has been, the building's being prefabbed off-site, this will come along really quickly. So some great movement in Bunyip Ward. I know some of these projects won't quite finish by June 30, but there's also been some great progress. So thank you.
We thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. Are there any other speakers to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Casey Thompson to sum up.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.4.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. No worries. We'll go to 7.4.4, contract variation, open space maintenance. The recommendation is that Council 1 amends contracts. Sorry, just give me a second. Thank you. My apologies. The recommendation here is that Council amends the contracts listed A, B, C, as listed in the report with Green by Nature Landscape Services, UDLM and Antler Environmental to include new assets and amendments to those existing sites as listed. And 2, notes that officers project costs for mowing and horticultural services to be close to $8.5 million for the 26-27 financial year, and that a review of service standards and frequency of service will occur in 2026 in preparation for negotiations of a possible extension of contracts at the start of 2027. Do I have a mover for these 2 items? I see Councillor Colin Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Oh, sorry, Councillor Owen, I didn't see you. Yep, we note that. Over to you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this is a pretty standard sort of thing in a growth corridor. You have people who win the maintenance contracts, and as assets get passed over from the developer to the council to look after them, it expands the area of responsibility that they have. Naturally, that doesn't come at no cost. It comes with amendments to the price that we pay these people. So these 3 different groups in the 3 different zones have had new assets moved over to them to be responsible for, and we expect the the maintenance to be of the standard that we have expectations and that we audit it on council. So naturally comes an increase in the in their contract. So anyway, I see it as basically standard. It happens in growth corridors. So I endorse this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. The implementation of a third park and turf surveillance officer prior to the start of the new maintenance contract has embedded robust and auditing processes, contractor accountability and improved response times to customers. During 2023 to 24 financial year, there was 25% reduction in customer requests during that period, indicating effective service level interventions and strong contractor management. The contractors are performing well and delivering consistent service. So I just wanted to note that, yes, the contract comes at a higher price total with the additional assets, CPI, but it is really working, these new contractors. Complaints are 25% down. And I remember before we appointed these contractors, so many complaints about long grass. It was really, really poor, and councillors were getting lots of these complaints. And now we've seen it turn around, and now parks and gardens are looking really good, but it does come at a cost. And this report details that cost. And when we review the new contract in the future, obviously, council officers are fully aware of our cost pressures, our budgeting pressures. So we'll review our current contract when we go for the review of the current contracts. But it is positive, and I just want to acknowledge the great work that the contractors are doing. Our parks and gardens look so much better since they've had it, which is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Owen. I'm happy to support this one too. So I think residents' expectations of grass is that it's at the standard that it's at now. Our mowing standards are right now. I think when I was Deputy Mayor, or it might have been in my first year as Mayor, I think Channel 7 wrote a story on a park that we were supposed to maintain. The grass was that long. Obviously, that was because the previous contractor had missed it. But Councillor Owen is right. This used to come up all the time. And now when I drive around all parts of the Shire, the grass is cut regularly. Residents are proud again. And it's the minimum standard, I think. That's what our residents expect, and that's what we should deliver for them. So happy to support it, recognise that it's going to go up. And I thank our officers, particularly Anna, for her work in this space to try and get us ahead of the curve in noting what these projections will look like. That's going to help inform our work. Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this one? I see none. I'll go back to you, Councillor Ross, to summarise.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with my fellow councillors on this. Since we've divided the Shire up and got mixed contractors to do the work, they're more proud about what they do. When you had one big contractor who did the whole lot, if they were falling down in some areas, you just didn't have the access to go and have other people jump in. This way you can. It should be noted in this, and also too, I must say, in defence of those people who cut lawns and do things, it's sometimes weather permitting as well. Sometimes it can be extremely, extremely wet. And it is really tough to get that looking the way it does. At the moment, we have perfect conditions, not much rain, not growing really good. So every time they go to cut it, they're only cutting a small amount off. But it does look excellent at the moment. I must say the contractors are doing a great job. Just highlighting one simple thing out of this, a lot of this additional cost comes because the Level Crossing Removal Authority have been doing the maintenance under the Skyrail. And what we did was, as a council, we had a choice. We had a choice that they do the maintenance forever and build nothing under it, or they invest millions and millions of dollars, which we couldn't afford, to make it look the way it does now, and we do the maintenance. So therefore, they stumped up the money with the community putting in on what should be built underneath them, and we'll continue the maintenance. I do like the fact that we're doing the maintenance, because if you have a look at the maintenance regimes on Vic roads and on train lines, They only do it about 3 times a year. I think that they're down to about 3 times a year they'll cut it. We do it. We'll make it look really nice the way it is. So anyway, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to agenda item 7.4.4 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7.5.1, community engagement update. The recommendation is that council notes the community engagement update for June 25. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor David Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this item? Councillor Pomeroy. Over to you, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you. Yeah, look, this is a report that I'm really pleased to sort of commend to my council colleagues and to the community. It shows that community engagement is a very tailored sort of piece of work, and that it's not one size fits all in Cardinia. The early items on the table which have been collected show that there's different engagement approaches for different types of projects affecting different types of residents. I'd also like to commend the inclusion in this June report of a new section which indicates how feedback for previous engagements has shaped decisions that council's made. It's a key principle of engagement and consistent with engagement best practice and the some of the international standards for engagement, that you're not doing it to just go through the ropes. When you engage with community or you engage with the public and you're asking for input, it's important that that input actually influences decisions that are taken, and that it's clear what decisions that input can influence. And so we see a review in the second part of the table in these new sections here for a few projects: the Worrell Reserve, Emerald Skate Park and Youth Plaza, the Community Sport and Scout Pavilion at Beaconsfield Upper, the lease agreement for Riding for the Disabled, and WB Ronald Reserve Playground upgrade. 4 projects that actually did the process, did engagement, and then have reported back to council and the community on, well, you told us this, and that's how that information influenced decisions taken. So I think that's a really positive evolution of this report.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor and Councillor Nicol. I would just like to remind the community that the Narnagoon Township Strategy and the Draft Community Capital Works Grants engagements both finish tonight. So if you want to have a say, you've got a few more hours. But the one I would like to inform, and I received a letter in my letterbox, was the Shape Our Future Waste Services. That absolutely impacts every single one of us. So make sure you get in there and have your say. Super important. And I look forward to the feedback on the 1 Halford Street for Upper Beaconsfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to talk about 1 Halford Street in Upper Beak. Really important that the community engages with this engagement consultation regarding the vacant land there, which is council-owned land. So I do encourage residents to have their say. I've had a number of phone calls, but I want them to put this through this engagement opportunity. AusNet street lighting upgrades in parts of Beaconsfield and Garfield. I know majority of the light upgrades will be in Beaconsfield, and there will be a drop-in information session on Wednesday, the 23rd of July, between 10:30 and 12:30 p.m. 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. I do encourage anyone who have got concerns. Obviously, we've got a history of community concern regarding these upgrades. I personally think it won't impact the look and feel of the parts of Beaconsfield being upgraded. There is very minimal difference, in my opinion, but I want to hear from people if they do have any concerns. There'll be letter drops, signage, targeted media through our e-news, and I do encourage people to subscribe to our e-news platform. You get regular updates. So I'm really pleased about that. And I too am very excited about improvements to this report, referring back to previous engagements and how the community responded. I think that's really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Are there any other speakers? I'll go back to Councillor David Nicol to sum us up.
Nothing further, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 751 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. All right, moving into councillor reports. Councillors, would anyone like to kick us off? You do not have to speak, but is there anything to present? No, we'll move on from councillor reports. Okay, Councillor Ross first.
Man, I had to jump in before we got missed. Everyone would have gone crazy. Anyway, look, it's been a really busy month for all the councillors, and I know that I attended events where other councillors attended. One of the events we attended was the CEO farewell for Carol Jeffs. It was a really well-run event. It was really respectful. It didn't go too long. And I must say, at the end of it, I think everybody felt like it was a really lovely send-off for Carol, which I know that we thank her very much for her time on council and the dedication and passion that she has for us. We wish her well in her future endeavours. Also, too, the Stan Henwood Award and volunteer reception was an amazing event as well. Jeff Young was such well-deserved winner of the award. I must say, I was talking to Jeff and his wife on the entrance coming in, and they had absolutely no idea that he was going to win the award, and he was absolutely in shock. He didn't even have a speech. For someone who often says, I've got something to say, he had little to say, but it was just wonderful. He's been such a really good guy in the community who always puts his hand up and always never expects anything in return, so it couldn't go to a more deserved person. And also to see how many volunteers turned up on the evening was really, really encouraging. Sometimes you think it's dropping off, and then you turn up and you go, my gosh, we have got a real band of volunteers out there, and a lot of them we should be able to utilise them as mentors in future towards younger people who don't know the value in volunteering. Another event that I attended was the Reconciliation Week event up at Emerald. It was an indoor event as it rained, as the Mayor knows, and Councillor Nicol knows, and Councillor Pomeroy, who was there, so it had to be moved indoor. And that was just a testament to the facility that's up there now, that you could actually do that. You go back 20 years ago and you just wouldn't have been able to have it. You would have had to call it off. That was a really well-attended event, and the local schools come along, and council do a really good job with our officer putting her time in and dedication towards this event. Also, too, we had an interfaith group meeting, an AGM, which was an amazing event where it looked like we didn't know which way it was going to go, whether it was going to continue or whether it wasn't. It was amazing how when people are put to the test, they stand up, and they stand up for what they believe in. And it was the best amount of people who turned up from all faiths, knowing that it was really sitting on the borderline. And we have a new chair who actually happens to be the same chair as the Sikh multi-faith in Victoria as well. So I attended that event. 2 days later, he invited everybody at the interfaith group, and I went into Federation Square to support him in that. And the fact that, I'd like to know that we are doers. We aren't just speakers of things. We actually go and attend things to show that we do support them in their endeavours and interfaith groups. So we did that.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'm sorry, that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Councillor Owen.
Thanks.
Get
Mayor.
cracking.
Mayor, on Saturday night, I had the pleasure of attending the 80th anniversary of the creation of the Tumuck Fire Brigade. So they were formed in 1944 after disastrous fire swept through Pakenham area. A meeting was called to form a fire brigade. In 1986, they built their current station thanks to donations from the community. They've been heavily involved in a number of campaigns since. But 80 years, what a fantastic achievement. It was great to be present when a lot of service awards were issued. I just want to acknowledge our op shops. On the night, they mentioned the Pakenham op shops contribution to fire brigades across Cardinia. Last year, Pakenham Op Shop gave out over 140,000, and obviously Two Muck Fire Brigade was part of that. But Berwick Op Shop, amazing. They contribute to Two Muck Fire Brigade. Last year, they gave out over $440,000 to the community, and that includes part of Cardinia community. And I think since 2013, they've donated 130,000 to Two Muck Fire Brigade. Amazing, and that's Berwick Op Shop. Also want to acknowledge our King's birthday honours this year, and I'm not too sure if you were going to mention that. The Pakenham ex-serviceman Colin Tidwell, who received the Medal of Order of Australia for his achievements as a serviceman and ex-serviceman, volunteer firefighter and Knox Mayor in the past. And also I want to acknowledge Graham and Ann Taylor, husband and wife. They got the OAM as well. Anne and Graham are real stalwarts of our community, particularly Beaconsfield, and congratulations to them. Recognising their contribution. Graham's also been involved as chairperson of the Bendigo Bank, community bank, and so many thousands of dollars donated throughout the time of the bank. And finally, I attended with a few other councillors the Neighbourhood Policing Forum. It was organised by Pakenham Police or Cardinia Police. Unfortunately, it wasn't well attended. I would have loved to see more people attend, but it does highlight, people's concerns. And they've got a survey at the moment, the Community Sentiment Survey. Last year, there was only 150 responses. So I would like our community to respond to that survey to let the police know how we feel about issues affecting, our safety, our perception. So I encourage people to partake in that survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Pomeroy.
Following on for National Volunteers Week, this month was really highlighted by the incredible spirit of our volunteers. So I'd like to thank Windana for their invitation to come and watch a football game last week. Their aim is to help people rebuild their lives, and it's great to see a number of young adults and middle-aged adults, to be fair, really getting back into the community. So these are some football games that are held across Victoria coming apart, but then there's some footballers that are also going on to play at Bunyip each Saturday. So I just think that's a wonderful program locally and really showcasing the work that they are doing within our community. I'd also like to shout out to every community group that did a Big Freeze event. The phenomenal support of people right across our community in raising funds for each of these events. I was honoured to go down the slide at Garfield Hotel's event, but I do note that the Mayor also participated, and right across the Shire there's been a number of community volunteers get up there, get cold as we highlight and fight the beast. And I really hope our community is feeling supported, but also thanks for the support. Thelma Slade at St John's Posh Op Shop also held the biggest morning tea, once again highlighted by a family connection with her sister speaking. So it's just great to see so many people out there raising money for such important causes. And I had the pleasure of attending the Cardinia Cultural Centre Winter-Spring season launch. Bookings are now open. Get on the website and get down to the Cultural Centre.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be fairly brief my end. I just want to echo the thoughts of the Stan Henwood Award. That was a fantastic evening. As Councillor Pomeroy said, with National Volunteers Week, to have a night where we can recognise all of our volunteers. They were all worthy winners. As you all know, no one goes into volunteering for the look at me or for the awards. I think some people had 80 or 90 years worth of volunteering experience. So it was just fantastic to recognise them and to share in that, and to share in their successes and celebrate that. And the night it was. A really cool one that's getting up off the ground that I believe I saw the email saying our mayor would be involved with is the Battle of the Bands coming up in the next few months. So we've got some really cool arts initiatives coming through. So it's promoting some youth in the arts. So watch out for some more publicity around that from a couple of local high schools around the area who have banded together and doing some really good work promoting youth in the arts. Really looking forward to a dual citizenship ceremony this Saturday, recognising some more of our diversity, but also welcoming some new Australians who want to call Australia home. And I was really umming and ahhing about this one because I'm not sure I want it on public record, but manifesting positive energy, the fountain, apparently on, I'm going to say by the end of the week. I was told earlier, but end of the week's a safety net. So manifesting positive thoughts. Thank you, Mayor.
It's all about good vibes, Councillor Thompson. I like that. Councillor Trudy Payne.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to all the councillors. It's good to hear of your, activities out and about. While we're on the subject of volunteers, just want to mention that I had the pleasure of attending the Kuirupan Lions, Kuirupan Lang Lang Lions Club changeover meeting last week. The Lions have created a social hub where all of the local community clubs come together to support the Kuirup op shop, similar to what Councillor Owen was saying. On the night, the Lions rewarded each of the 10 local clubs who work at the shop with a cheque of $3,800 for each club. And that's quite significant. That's only for half the year, and it's significant for the little town of Kuirup. The entire community is to be congratulated on this successful social enterprise model that benefits the entire community. The Lions Club are in need of more committee members to ensure the huge impacts for the wider communities continues to strengthen. For any of our gallery members who have a social conscience, I recommend that you speak with the Lions Committee to learn how you can further help them to make a difference. I've been meeting and chatting to the Riding School for the Disabled in Pakenham, RDAV, and just about their sources to help them find some alternate sources of funding for their all-weather arena project. It was disappointed because Jason Wood was unable to deliver on his promise of $500,000 when the Liberal Party failed to make government at the election. It's disappointing that funding like this becomes a political matter and that the elected government didn't sort of match Jason's local commitment. But there you have it. So now they're on the lookout for some private pledging. I attended Art Show Pakenham, which was fabulous, both at the Pink Hill Hotel and down at the Cardinia Cultural Centre. The Cultural Centre offers a really bright and beautiful space to showcase the paintings, but the Pink Hill Hotel itself offered other opportunities. There were more selection of works. I think it was probably a third bigger, the selection at Pink Hill. And it's really important when you're trying to build participation in the arts. In academia, they would identify that to develop your audience, you need to broaden your audience, you need to deepen it, and you need to diversify. So putting our arts into a pub really attracts people to go and have a look at that art that wouldn't normally go. They wouldn't normally go to the cultural centre, but they will go to the pub. So hats off to the committee who thought to organise that. And I understand that the Pink Hill Hotel basically gave them the space for free, and that was, win-win. Lastly, I'll be attending meetings this week at Lang Lang's Rotary Club and at the Lang Lang Business and Community Group to discuss council-related items, and update, of course, on the horse sculpture that's a hot topic down there. But in particular, I just want to let you know that the business group is hosting a presentation from owners of local sand quarries this week. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this new collaboration might benefit the town. I congratulate the committee on driving this promising initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. We all done? Councillor Potter?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just mention two things. The Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee met, and I'm honoured to be on such a wise and knowledgeable committee where we work to make Cardinia more inclusive for people of all abilities, and we're looking for new members. So if you're passionate about creating positive change, I encourage you to get involved. Visit the council website and look for Access and Inclusion. And the second item I'll mention was the Mayor, Jack, and Council's infrastructure team and I were welcomed and met residents at the Lifestyle Officer Resort. We heard their feedback on local projects like Ricks Road, and we're following up with them. So just generally, if residents have any questions, feel free to email council or reach out to the councillors directly. Our emails are online on the council website. And yeah, we all live locally too, and we're always happy to listen and help where we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Thank you, councillors. Is there anything else to report? No? Perfect. All right, we'll go. Oh, yeah, Councillor Nicol.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I've been doing stuff. Most people know that I've been working with, know what I've been doing. But I'd just like to shout out council officers actually who've been juggling their calendars and helping sort of turn up to meetings with community with me over the past few weeks. It's greatly appreciated, and having the officers on site to talk directly with community about whatever issue it is very, very helpful to me as a councillor. So I'd just like to commend those staff to the management team. And I just thought I might take the opportunity to shout out our good mayor, actually, because I happened to be at a debutante ball on the weekend in a private capacity as a very proud parent. And I looked over and who's turned up? The mayor's there at the table of honour after 5 back-to-back commitments through the weekend. He's still taking the time to turn up in his official capacity and assist a great night, another late night out. And I just thought, that's fantastic. We've got a very, very hard-working mayor for the Shire, and a lot of people see him giving his time to lots and lots of community events. So just a shout out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Councillor Roberts, is there anything you wanted to mention?
I will mention that on Friday night in the cold, I popped down to the Pakenham Library to attend the first of their winter evening programs.
Nice.
Heather Arnold, who known to the community, she's on the Swamp Historical Society and is a former Casey Cardinia historical librarian. She gave a presentation on the interesting women of Cardinia, of the region, Casey Cardinia, from the 1800s. So talked about the women who were farmers' wives, often who became widowed, often bore a large number of children, many of whom died before they reached adulthood. The women who were employed as early teachers with very basic training, and the many other jobs that some of the women did, like they had a number of postmistresses along the railway towns. So really insightful opportunity and she did that ran that talk for a small group as a volunteer. It wasn't paid for that. There is a whole program of activities on Friday nights at the library. Free movies. There's a sound, so you can go along and learn about sound healing. There's basket weaving coming up. There's a talk about raising children coming up as well. So, and they're all free. So if people want to get along to those and make use of our library services.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Thanks, councillors, for your reports. Agenda item 9 says presentation of petitions. I'm aware of none. No petitions to be presented. There's no notices of motion tonight. There is no urgent business, but there is councillor questions. So we've had councillor questions submitted for tonight's meeting by 2 councillors. We're going to start with the questions from Councillor Liz Roberts, and they're going to be answered by Acting General Manager James Kelly. Councillor Roberts, can you please read question 1, wait for the answer, and then read question 2? Thank you.
Question 1. What effort is currently being made to improve the amenity and safety in the Pakenham Town Centre, particularly around the Main Street, Pakenham Place, Pakenham Community Hospital construction site and Pakenham Marketplace?
Thank you, Councillor Officers. And in response to your question, council officers have undertaken extensive advocacy efforts over the past 5 to 6 years to partner with all levels of government, which has culminated in a comprehensive programme of infrastructure upgrade projects across the Pakenham precinct. Transformative projects such as the new Pakenham train station, Burrick Park, and major road upgrades at Racecourse, McGregor and Bald Hill roads have provided strong foundations in reshaping the network in and around Pakenham Activity Centre. Also, Council meets with the relevant state government agencies on a regular basis, raising matters of community safety, such as lighting, workforce, parking and signage, along with the trader support concerns, providing a coordinated response for the upcoming significant traffic impacts as part of the Big Build Roads Stage 3 programme, ensuring traders are being supported and appropriate mitigation measures are in place. Additionally, Council continues to support and work closely with the major stakeholders and private landowners within the activity centre. Council has been working closely with Victoria Police on community safety initiatives, including provisions of CCT trailer and targeted areas and assistance with private demolition applications following ongoing reports of criminal activity and antisocial behaviour. Council continues to work with partnership with the Victoria Police using their crime prevention through design CPTED specialised qualifications to inform the design of the activity centre to achieve a safer Pakenham.
Question 2. What is the estimated timeline for presentation of the revised schedule of works, including design, for the Pakenham Revitalisation Project to a council meeting?
Again, thank you. The response to your question would be the Pakenham Revitalisation Project is a long-term priority project for Cardinia Shire Council, with the programme divided into 12 separate stages as funding is achieved. Given the breadth and scale of the projects occurring with Pakenham, Council is re-sequencing the phasing to concentrate on delivering the upgrades to Drake Place and John Street, alongside the Main Street Central and Main Street Gateway components. The first phase of the project to be delivered is Main Street Gateway. The construction tender expected in the next couple of months, with an announcement of the successful contractor award once tender assessment is undertaken and presented to Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for your questions. I'm now going to go to Councillor Payton's questions. So, Councillor Payton, can you please read your questions in the same format, answering one question and waiting for the answer before the next? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Lighting of the Shire's recreation reserves for nighttime play and safety implications. There are lighting policy and requirements that govern the lighting of recreation reserves and play surfaces. I'm concerned that there are some reserves that do not meet these standards and risk the safety of players. Number 1, what regular audits does Council undertake to assess the lighting at the Shire's rec reserves?
Thank you, Councillor Payton, and through you, Mayor. In response, Council conducted a detailed recreation assess audit in 2021-2022, which included sports field lighting and is due to undertake another audit in 2026. Thank you.
Number 2, what is the standard for lighting rec reserves? That is the lux rating or the glare rating for the purpose of nighttime play.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Through you, Mayor. In response, Council's Sports Facility Standards policy outlines the different hierarchy of recreation reserves within the Shire. Different infrastructure is provided at different levels of the hierarchy and changes dependent on the sports. Flood lighting levels generally comply with the applicable Australian standard unless a sports governing body has set a higher level. For example, a local reserve won't have permanent lighting at all. A district reserve, which is used by or for Australian rules football, will have lighting to a standard of 100 lux, and a regional reserve, which is used for athletics, will have a lighting of a standard of 500 lux. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3, who is responsible for the audit and maintenance of these lighting standards? And who is responsible to fund the maintenance and or renewal of lights as needed?
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Through you, Mayor. In response, it is the responsibility of the asset owner to undertake maintenance and auditing. For Crown land reserves, it is the responsibility of the state government or appointed Crown Land Committee of Management. For council-owned and managed reserves, Council is responsible for the renewal and installation of lighting in accordance with Council's Sports Facility Standards policy. The costs associated with maintaining sports field lighting, including poles, fittings, wiring and globes, are the responsibility of the user group.
Thank you. Number 5. Sorry.
So question 4.
4. What provision is in the council budget to ensure compliance with these lighting policies and requirements is deliverable? What can be done by this council to address the gaps in funding and delivery of safe lighting for our sports players?
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Council has a sports field lighting capital renewal program for the completion of renewal and upgrade works. The 25-26 draft budget, now adopted, has an allocation of $50,000. It is important to note that the budget changes from year to year depending on the stages of the projects. Sites are identified and prioritised based on Council's asset condition audit process. Council continues to advocate and apply for grants available for sports field lighting.
Thank you. And number 5, can officers provide a list of Shire recreation reserves that don't meet the safety standards and are in need of urgent upgrade, please? Also, what communications between council and the clubs have been undertaken for each of the grounds listed?
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Condition audits are generally conducted every 3 to 4 years in accordance with the asset management principles. This allows council to mitigate its risk associated with the structure and lux with sports field lighting. Clubs are notified when funding is confirmed in Council's Capital Works program.
Thank you. My second item is a report on the 2024 agricultural audit. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. From April to August last year, an agricultural audit was conducted across the Shire. Our farmers are still waiting on the results of this audit, and so is our council. I expect results of this audit are important for this council's consideration of adoption of the council plan and the budget. We've missed the budget deadline. Please can officers advise a deadline for reporting on the agricultural audit? The farmers and I don't understand why the report is being withheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton, and through you, Mayor. While progress has been made with the agricultural audit, the draft requires additional refinements to ensure it meets the standards expected for community presentation and council endorsement. Approval for an agribusiness officer's position through a restructure was provided. However, the recruitment process has not yet identified a candidate for the role. This has resulted in the agricultural audit being delayed. The draft council plan recognises to develop a food agribusiness strategy that builds on the findings of the 2025 agribusiness audit and implement the actions of the strategy. These actions can be accommodated within the operational budget.
Thank you. There is only one question left, but we're 30 seconds over time. So we'll provide the rest of the responses in writing. And do they go into the minutes of the meeting? The question will go into the minutes of the meeting and a response will be provided to you, Councillor Payton. Thank you, Debbie Tyson, for those responses. All right, so that's all our councillor questions. Thank you, councillors who utilised that. So we're left with the mayoral minute now, agenda item number 13. And I didn't use the mayoral minute last time, but it's important to use it this time. I want to take this opportunity to set the record straight about council's position regarding the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund following recent media coverage. On behalf of this council, and obviously I don't make decisions alone, we have collectively expressed concerns about the impact that the new levy will have on our community, especially local farmers, but all of our community. We, of course, understand the ongoing cost of living pressures facing our community, and we are committed, as you heard in debates tonight, to committing rates and charges as affordable as possible while continuing to deliver essential services and projects. The reality is that council is legislated under the Fire Services Property Amendment Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund Act 2025 to collect these fees on behalf of the state government. If council doesn't include this charge on rates notices or pay the fees to the state government, we would be in breach of the law. Under the legislation, councils are obliged to collect the levy on behalf of the state. We are not permitted to issue a separate invoice for the levy, and we're required to proportionally allocate any amount paid by ratepayers across all rates and charges, including the ESVF. Our council is committed to continuing to work with our local government colleagues to advocate on this matter and highlight the sector's concerns. At the MAV State Council in May, council submitted a motion calling for the MAV to advocate and note the significant impact on local government and the community, particularly on primary production properties such as farms. That concludes the mayoral minute. Thank you, everyone. We're going into confidential business. So that concludes the public part of tonight's meeting. I'm going to seek a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting to allow council to consider confidential business. The recommendation here is that council, pursuant to section 66 5A and B of the Local Government Act 2020, close the meeting to the public to consider the following confidential information. Agenda item 14.1, property legal matter, is designated confidential on the grounds that it relates to section 31A council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, and section 31E legal privileged information, being information to which legal professional privilege or client legal privilege applies. A bit of a mouthful. Do I have a mover for that item to go in camera? Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. We'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried at 9:20 p.m. So that concludes the open part of the meeting. I'm going to adjourn till 9:30 to give us time to clear the room and say goodbye to those in the gallery who came, and we appreciate your attendance. The next council meeting will be on the 21st of July at 7 p.m. So we'll adjourn for 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone.